Hello and welcome to the Zwift Race Place. Today we are going to be covering the Alpe Dash by the Herd Racing League. This is a chase race style format, and these riders are racing up, of course, Alpe Du Zwift. For those of you who do not know what a chase race is, essentially the slowest riders are released at the start time. Then 10 minutes later, the Category D riders go. 10 minutes later, Cat C riders are released. 10 minutes after them, Cat B, and 10 minutes after them, Cat A. So essentially, your Cat A riders are going to be leaving the start pens 40 minutes after the Cat E riders, who are our slowest riders today. So we still have a little bit of time before we go in with the riders, so let's take a look at our course fellow viewer for today. And here is the velo viewer for our course today. As you can see, it is a steep one. We start down in in the flatlands of Watopia, head down, through the jungle descent to the base of Alpe Du Zwift. That is that last orange and yellow section on the map there. We starting right there, and then the finish is at the top of the mountain, and that is right there. So you can see your start area and finish area, and the finish of this race comes at the top of that Alpe Du Zwift KOM. So it will be a lot of climbing today for the riders out on course. So let's talk about some favorites for our first race leaving today. We have only a few racers in this e-race. Miles Pearson, Rafael, Brandon Rogers, Davy Pye, Eric Parent, H.P. Jensen, Neil Dagger, and Wes Maher. These riders are all have a 600-point rank on Zwift Power, which essentially means that they have not been doing any races yet, because that is the lowest, or the lowest rank you can be ranked on Zwift Power right now. But so can't really determine any favorites from those riders as there is not enough data. But then in our D race, looking at some favorites like Aaron Furman, Leigh Penny, Niels Borstelmann. Those are your top 3 favorites in our D race today, and we will be getting in with our D racers. Just a few, they are being released 10 minutes after the e-race, so we'll check in with them then. And we are still just waiting for the start of this race, and we'll be able to go in with those riders now, I believe. Fortunately, just having a bit of an issue joining our riders, but we will go in with them shortly. But for now, we can look at some facts about this race. About this race course. This is the Road to Sky route up Alpe Du Zwift, and this is the shortest route to the top of Alpe Du Zwift in Watopia. Zwift created this route using GPS data to perfectly match the incline and distance of the storied time. That is according to Zwift Insider. So, Alpe Du Zwift is, of course, modeled after the real-life climb Alpe d'Huez, one of the more popular climbs in, say, the Tour de France, and, of course, the iconic Alpe d'Huez. If you want to see some real-life performances on Alpe d'Huez, just go to YouTube and search some highlights on Alpe d'Huez from the Tour de France. Some great action on that mountain over the ages. Still working on getting in with our riders here. We will also be listening in on some Discord conversation in the Herd Racing League Discord throughout the stream. But for now, still trying to find our riders. Now, just something I wanted to talk about in our intro here before the stream starts. The Zwift Race Place will be rolling out a new feature, and this new feature it's called Coaching Tips from Community Riders, and I have included a link to the application down in the description below. So essentially what this is it's going to be a segment that is on the show each week, and community riders are going to be sharing their number one coaching tip with the Zwift racing community on the show. So if you would like to be featured with your live racing tip on the show, just click on that link down in the description below. Just some issues joining our riders, as this is the chase race format, and riders leaving the pens at such different times, but we are almost in with them now. Some more Zwift technical difficulties, and I apologize for this. Just going to be a few more minutes. But in the meantime, you can click on that link in the description below and fill out that form to come on the Zwift Race Place new new segment where community riders share their Zwift racing tips. This is just giving a perfect opportunity for you guys to go down into the description below, click on that link, and fill out that form. And I apologize one more time for the difficulties here. Now officially heading into Watopia for the Alpe Dash by Herd Racing League. Just got Zwift to cooperate, and I apologize once more for those difficulties. And here we are, changing worlds, heading to Watopia for the Alpe Dash by Herd Racing League. And now in our B category pens, and we will see if we can join our e-racers on the road in just a moment. Now watching Lise Fox. This is one of our female racers on the road. And Lise Fox here, just starting the early slopes of this climb here. And just going over to check and see where our e-racers are on the road currently. Now, again, Lise Fox, a leading e-racer, and she is also a woman here, so I believe she is leading our women's race. Andre de May of the World Elite Zwifters is currently leading the race overall, though. Andy Pearson now in these C pens. Just keeping an eye on these riders. They will be going off shortly in just about 8 minutes. Just jumping around through the pens, and we will get an eye on some of our riders a little later once we have some more categories on course. Now, our D category racers have just left the pens, and we are here in their front group right now. This is Thomas Hexler we're watching, and these racers coming down through the jungle descent. Now, for those of you who don't know this course well, it starts just at the top of this dirt road descent. This will take you down into the jungles of Watopia, then down through the jungle descent, and from the bottom of the jungle descent, you begin on the Alpe. Now, as you can see from the timer in the top right-hand corner of your screen, just about 17 minutes and 17 minutes and 10 seconds left until our B racers start, and that means just about 7 minutes to the start of our C race, but currently in with our leading D racers on the road. If you want to watch live data of the race, head on over to the Zwift Power link in the description below, and that will show you where all the riders are on course at this very moment. Kind of like a live minimap, although it is shown in a race profile format, and much more data down below if you just scroll down from that map there. And still watching our leading D racers. Believe that Andrew Francis is on the front of this D race group, and we will see if we can head a little bit farther towards the front of this group. Now, a little split in our leading D category, and the rider that we are watching, Thomas Hexler, falling into the second group on the road. So see if we can just go a little bit farther up with those leading D racers. Now, farther towards the front with our Coxie. Believe he is on the front of this D race. Just getting a little bit of side view as these D racers passing through the temple there. And now under the arch, and this is still your front D category. Coxie, believe that is Rauren Coxie, the Polish rider. Believe this is one of our female Zwifters on course. Pushing right now around 150, 160 watts. And most likely a lighter rider, so quite a bit for her. And she has been just getting out of the saddle and sprinting there a couple times on this descent. So these front D racers really moving fast. Now under 15 minutes to the start of your B race, under 5 to the start of your C race, and just under 25 to the start of your A race. Believe we talked earlier about some favorites in this D race, but just going over that again for those of you just joining us. We have Aaron Furman, Leigh Penny, Niels Borstelmann. Those are, oops, sorry about that. Are Coxie somehow returning to the C race pens? That was strange. Maybe Coxie meant to be racing in the C race. But back with H. Thompson in our D race. That was very strange there. Guess Coxie might have gotten the on-screen pop-up telling her to go into our C race pens. That was very strange there. Not entirely sure how she was registered in 2 categories. Maybe just a glitch in Zwift. But still with H. Thompson of the pack team. And as I was saying, our favorites in the race today, Aaron Furman, Leigh Penny, Niels Borstelmann, Eddie B., Scott Hardiman. Now, some of these D riders, well, actually, our 3 favorites, all sandbagging today. Their Zwift Power Minimum categories are C, B, and C. And one of our other favorites, Scott Hardiman of the Strive C3 team, also sandbagging. Minimum Zwift Power category is a B. So these riders not racing in their designated category race. But our D's on the road just working to catch up with some of those E's in the front. Just a little bit of action in the chat. D. Herzig says, hi everyone, and D. Jacques says, like, you'll be fine. Not entirely sure what that is supposed to mean, but that is, of course, our B category chat, and they are just under 12 minutes to their start now. And we see on the bottom of your screen the pack behind chasing down these front riders, just about 14 meters to that main pack of D riders now, about to sweep up this breakaway before they even get onto the slopes of the KOM. This is a long one though, about 7-mile KOM. Some more stats on the route. The entire length is 10.7 miles, so these riders will be riding 10.7 miles today. But the actual KOM closer to 7 miles, so it's about 3 miles before you hit the KOM. 3,428 feet of elevation, that is 1,045 meters of elevation on today's course. So these riders will be looking for some riders with strong climbing legs here. M. Sexton now going on the front. Just chasing down, believe these are some E riders. Not sure. No, looks like, yes, looks like some of our dropped E riders being chased down by this front D pack. Now just trying to get into our front E-race. With Giuseppe Roberto, an Italian rider on course. And this is your front pack of E-riders, just coming around that switch back there. Now under 10 minutes to the start of our B race, and our C racers are on the road now. A. Echevarria, the other rider up here in this front pack of E-racers. But Giuseppe Roberto of the Team Italy team moving to the front. Now just looking at bike choice here. Looks like Roberto on an S-Works. Not entirely sure which bike that is, and hard to see the bike of the rider on his wheel, but see if we can get that later on in this race, as we still have quite a bit of racing to go. A. Echevarria now, 1 meter back from Giuseppe Roberto, but still right there on his wheel, hanging tight. And these riders just about to complete this next switchback. They have already gone through the tunnel, one of the early landmarks on the Alpe Du Zwift KOM. Looks like Echevarria of the Ceramic Speed team, or at least wearing a Ceramic Speed jersey. A. Boldarev now coming up on the bottom of your screen. You can just see his name, his little name pin, right at the bottom of your screen. Still a ways back to him, though. And our C racers just over 2 minutes into their race now. We will get tabs on them in just a moment. But for now, watching the leaders of our E-race with Giuseppe Roberto and Echevarria. That is Antonio Echevarria, for those of you wondering. And now with a decent gap to Roberto. Not a decent gap, but just riding him off of his wheel. And Roberto working hard to catch back on to the front wheel of Antonio Echevarria. Echevarria, a Puerto Rican rider. His profile picture is of him on a time trial bike, so maybe a good time trialist. Not similar to a time trial in the sense that lots of riders will be alone for the entire duration of this race, but different because this is not a race against the clock. It is a race against, well, the other riders and the other categories as well. These lead E-riders will be trying to hold off the D, C, B, and A categories, all trying to catch up with them. Once again, for those of you just joining us, new segment coming out on the Zwift Race Place, where community division riders share their Zwift racing tips. So, link to the application to come on the show in the description below if you want to fill that out after the video. And if you like this video and want to see more live coverage and commentary of community division racing, please hit the like button and subscribe to the Zwift Race Place. But for now, sticking in with the action where Roberto just slinking off of Echevarria's back wheel, goes out to 10 meters back and then brings it back onto his wheel. Now looks like he is heading back out again. So Roberto may be struggling to stay on the wheel of Antonio Echevarria right now. And these are still your lead E-racers. Noticing Antonio Echevarria not wearing a heart rate monitor. That could cause some problems for him on Zwift Power results. But he is also a new racer to the sport of Zwift racing, as are most of these e-racers today. So he still has a long career of Zwift racing ahead of him and plenty of time to buy a heart rate monitor. Now under 5 minutes to the start of our B race. Now, back into our C category race. This is your leading group of C racers, and they are just about 7 minutes into their race now, watching FF. Not entirely sure what that stands for, but these racers just about to start this Alpe Du Zwift KOM as we approach 3 minutes to the start of the B race. FF just coming towards the back of this leading C group, and we will see some big splits as these C riders hit the low slopes of this KOM. They are the early slopes, but some of the steepest on the entire climb. See numbers well over 10% gradient here in these early moments, and surely seeing some big splits in here. FF now moving towards the middle of this pack. FF, the rider in the elite jersey, that is the red and white jersey with the black bib shorts, just on the right side of your screen right now, as these riders hit the official start to the Alpe Du Zwift KOM. And FF moving now towards the back of this group. Now watching F. Vinco, this is Fabio Vinco, the Italian rider, sitting in this pack, which is now getting quite spread out, and we will get to see the mini map up in the right-hand corner of our screen shortly after our B race start in just under 2 minutes now. Fabio Vinco is this rider in the orange, white, and black Strava jersey. It says Strava just on the top of his bibs there. And moving towards the front of this C race, not quite at the front yet though, still a long line of riders here and some riders going off the front of the C pack. We will be joining them shortly. Fabio Vinco just struggling to hold the wheel of N. Robertson, now putting in a little dig up out of the saddle for Vinco, trying to pull through some of these racers here, and the front of this pack is in sight now for Fabio Vinco. But now, farther up on the road, this is Alan Savori, I believe our leading rider in the C category, as we approach under 1 minute to go to the start of our B race now. Alan Savori, the Argentinian rider. Just give him a ride on right now. Should see that popping up over his head there. About our upper banner now showing watching Cade Fravel, but this still is Alan Savori. He is of the SA Pro team, and chasing him is N. Taylor, the Welsh rider. Taylor just about 5 meters back and has been hovering right around that number for quite a while now, as Alan Savory is starting to get a decent gap to the rest of this field. 1 second to Taylor and 5 to the next rider on the road, Kei Nakagawa. Savory now coming around turn 21 on the Alpe Du Zwift KOM, and there are only, I believe, 22 turns on this course. But yes, 22 turns on the course, 7.73 miles long. As another rider here, S. Packham, now passing Savory and taking the lead in our C race. This is Stephen Packham we are watching, the British rider. He is in that colorful jersey there. Get a view of the back of his jersey. Some red, gray, blue, orange, and white on there, and I believe that might be, not sure which jersey that is, but Kei Nakagawa now taking the first place position on the road. Nakagawa, 50 kilograms, it says up there next to his name. So Nakagawa, one of our lighter riders on course by quite a bit. 50 kilograms, of course, is quite light. And lighter riders performing much better on Alpe Du Zwift. So looking to him to make some of those catches on our D category riders. If he can catch those D category riders, then it will be considered a success in this chase race, as that is the goal, is to catch the lead riders in the category ahead of you. And Nakagawa now with 8 seconds to Stephen Packham, the chasing rider behind. Also back there is Savory, the Argentinian rider we were watching before. Our C racers have been racing for nearly 13 minutes now, which means our B race is well underway, and only about 7 minutes left to the start of our A race. Now, as Kazuya Nakagawa is running away with the lead in this C race, catching some dropped D riders there. That is, of course, the next category up the road. We are going to go back and see if we can find some of our lead B racers. B race, of course, just underway. Not seeing them on course yet, though, so just waiting for that to update. So we continue to watch Kei Nakagawa. 4.3 miles into this race now, and past turn 19, heading down towards turn 18. This is a moderately steep switchback on this course. Not quite the steepest, not quite the most flat, although nothing on this course can really be considered flat. Nakagawa now catching Ace Rolfs, another dropped D rider, and moving up towards that front D category. racers. Speaking of our front D category racers, here is T. Heckler. Now, Heckler, I believe, is sitting in 18th place overall in the D race, just moving up through the ranks of this D category. Now, with our second placed rider, I Folly. M. Janiski, one of our dropped E riders. And now, with the leader of the D race, I believe this is P. Derniak, passing out Giuseppe Roberto. Believe Giuseppe Roberto is our leader in the E race. Now watching Giuseppe Roberto, and I stand corrected, he may be, looks like he is third place in our E race. So a podium spot, but the leaders of our E race still about 50 seconds ahead. Not sure if those numbers are right. Giuseppe Roberto might be our leading E racer. We will just have to get confirmation on that. But for now, watching P. Derniak. This is Pascal Derniak, and he is leading our D race. This is the French rider, putting out just around 270 to 300 watts here. He is not only leading the D race, but leading all of the races right now, as he is at the front of all categories. But we'll see if that lasts, because our leading C racer and leading B racers are chasing on this Alpe Du Zwift KOM. So the real question is, can Pascal Derniak hold them off and go solo to the finish on this Alpe Du Zwift KOM? Now, coming around turn 11, a little bit of respite for the legs here. Drops down to 3%, 2%, 1% gradient. And that 11th turn on the course marks the halfway point through our Alpe Du Zwift KOM right now. Pascal Derniak is being pursued by Giuseppe Roberto. That is, I believe, the leader of our E-race, although Aide May of the World Elite Zwifters now being shown 7 minutes and 15 seconds ahead of Derniak in the lead of our E-race. May be at the back of the E-race, though, just a issue in Zwift. But looking at Aide de Me, possibly our leading E-racer, just have to check on that. His numbers jumping all around here. Andrea Demey now being shown in the front of our E-race, and 1 minute and 50 seconds ahead is, looks like not entirely sure who this is, but nearly 9 seconds ahead of Pascal Derniak and our leading E-racer on the road. So Pascal Derniak got some work to do if our D-race is going to catch our leading E-race, and it looks like flying up this KOM, now approaching turn number 3. this is a very impressive time for this rider. Already approaching turn 3 and only 40 minutes into this ride. That, of course, includes the approximately 2.25 mile lead in to the KOM. So, looking at somewhere around 35 minutes into the climb so far, between 30 and 35 minutes into the climb. So, not sure what our predicted time is at the top of this race course quite yet, but this rider I could be taking it home in the E-race. Well, most likely will be taking it home in the E-race and leading overall, as well as the A-racers have just barely started yet. Just started about a minute ago. So, no way that they are going to be able to catch this leading E-racer. So I will be our winner of the E-race on the day, as well as our winner overall throughout all categories. Pushing consistently over 5 watts per kilogram, over 5.5 at times. Now just spiked into the 6s there for a moment. So this is really an impressive performance. This is actually Lice Fox. Not quite sure why she is being shown as I, or maybe that's an L, I guess, for Lice. But Lice Fox is leading your E-race. This is one of our female Zwift racers, crushing in this E category. Looks like a relatively new racer to Zwift, only a level 9. So still a bit of racing and riding left to go on Zwift to level up. So Lice Fox looks like a newer rider on Zwift, but insanely fast right now, coming around turn number 2 on the Alpe Du Zwift KOM. She is a French rider, age 33, and at a height of 5 feet 3 inches. So not incredibly tall, maybe a lighter rider, which would make her a great climber here. But still, 5.7 watts per kilogram is a lot to push consistently for this long. These are really like A category numbers right here. I think Lice Fox could have raced in our A race and done just fine. But racing in the E race of all places, so, well, the E race is often our women's category race, so could have just gotten confused here. In this race, E is for riders with an average watts per kilogram of, well, somewhere under 1.5 watts per kilogram, which is not anywhere near what Lice Fox is pushing right now. The French woman pushing 5.5 watts per kilogram pretty consistently. Now with a 9-minute and 22-second gap to Pascal Derniac, and he will not be catching the front of this E-race today. Another French rider on the course. So right now, 2 French riders leading their individual categories, and the gap to Pascal Derniac is just continuing to grow. Going back with him now. This is, as I was saying, your other French rider out on course. Pushing more reasonable watts, closer to 4 watts per kilograms, but still well over category limits for a D race as well. Have to see what he's been averaging throughout this ride later on. Sharp choice on the Pinarello Dogma there. Black and pink bike. To be honest, not the best climber, but can perform well. Like the colors on the bike, though, with that black and pink. And that yellow and black jersey one of my favorite jerseys as well. Even color coordinated with his yellow shoes. I believe those might be yellow Mavic shoes, but don't hold me to that. Skal Derniak, just coming around turn number 8 now. So he's still got about 8 switchbacks left to race. And I believe the switchback from turn 7 to turn 6 is the toughest on this course. So still a ways to go for Pascal Derniak, the leader of your D race. But now back with our leader overall, Lise Fox, and she will be our winner on the day in the E category and overall. Just riding, looks like a Zwift Carbon maybe, up this mountain. So, obviously, still pretty new to Zwift, but great performance by Lise Fox as she is approaching the banner now. And just through the banner, Lise Fox is your first place rider on the day in the E category and overall. And now we are back with Andrea DeMay of the World Elite Zwifters squad, sitting in second place right now. He is also pushing some good numbers for an E category race. Just over 6.5 minutes back to Pascal Derniak, the leader of our D race. So looks like he will also be holding him off to the finish here, I think. Gap just coming down 1 second there. But Andrea DeMay approaching turn number 2 now, about halfway in between turns number 3 and 2. This rider is wearing a heart rate monitor and currently only at 147 beats per minute. So up there, but does not look like this rider is pushing all out right now. Got over a 12.5 minute gap back to Giuseppe Roberto, our third placed E-rider. So no real reason for Andrea DeMay to be pushing too hard here. Pascal Derniak bringing the gap down just a bit, but not quite enough to close it in time for this finish. Now, after this E-racer finishes, we will have the finish to our D race. And after that, we're going to head back with our A, B, and C riders to see what they are up to on course. Zwift Power now with a new beta feature showing the gaps between categories here. So if you head on over to the Zwift Power link in the description below, you can see live stats to this race as well as this new beta feature showing time gaps between each category. On the map, it looks like Andrea DeMay, well, we already know, leading our E-race, but farther back on the road, all bunched up, the leader of our C-race moving fairly close to the leader of the D-race. See if our C-race can make that catch with still just under half of the climb left to ride. And then our B-race leaders, not, well, a bit of a larger gap from them to our C race and an even larger gap from our A racers to our B racers. So just got to keep an eye on all this data and see which categories are going to be making the catch and where, or if at all. finish to our D race predicted in about 30 minutes, as well as the finishes to our C, B, and A race. Right now, our A racers being predicted to finish first. So, interesting data there. But now, just ETAs are updating, and our A race now predicted to finish about 4 seconds behind our B racers, but finishing before our C and D race still. So all that ETA data, still a ways to go to the finish, but just fun to look at it and check it out, see what it's looking like, how it might play out. Fun to speculate here. Andrea Demi just taking a break there for a moment, dropping down to 0 watts. Coming to a complete stop, but then beginning again. Maybe thought that turn 1 meant the finish, as it does say 1. Seems like it could very easily be your last turn, but nope, still a little ways to go to that finish line, and Andrea Demi now heading in towards that finish. Very close now, and 3,297 feet of elevation into this race. His legs must be hurting. Another drop down to 0 watts. Not sure what that was. And it looks like Andrea Demi has finished this race. No, Andrea Demi quitting the race. This is a bit confusing here. Andrea Demi had that second place spot all locked up and then abruptly dropped out of the race. Just watching as he approaches that finish line. Maybe thought that turn 1 was the finish, but it is not. And well, that was strange, but we'll see if we can rejoin some of our other categories on course now. Whoa, a little bit of a spin around there. But now in with Stefano Cirillo. This is one of your leading B racers on the road. Sitting in third, fourth place overall right now. Riding with Jack. Not entirely sure how to pronounce that name. Polish names are tough for me. But catching a lot of these drop C riders here. Cirillo. Stefano Cirillo, I believe, the Italian rider. And he has just come through turn 13, so still a little ways to go to the finish for him here. Our other B racers, not seeing them on the minimap, but they are there somewhere. A little bit hard to distinguish between the blue and green colors of B and C sometimes when groups are all bunched up, and those little dots on the map to the right of your screen are smaller. But Stefano Cirillo still riding with Jacek, the Polish rider, and passing lots and lots of dropped C riders here. Now seeing our leading B rider on the road, I believe he is in between turns 10 and 9. Could be Matteo Piazza of Team Milano Cycling up the road there. Not sure if he is leading this race or sitting in second place overall though yet. See if we can join those front B riders shortly. Looking at S. Finnegan of the IRL CCC Red Team. Sitting in 55th place overall in the C race, so a ways back. Just moving up through the category C racers, trying to find the leader of our B race. Here we go, now watching Matteo Piazza of the Team Milano Cycling in that orange, white, and black Strava Cycling jersey. Another C racer there, sorry about that. And Matteo Piazza, though, not our B leader on the road, sitting in second place overall. Sporting a BMX helmet there on his head. Just watching as he climbs up towards turn number 10 on the course. Now watching Nathan Taylor. This is our 5th place C rider overall, I believe. Just moving up farther towards the front of the C category now, looking for our lead C racers. And here we are with Kei Nakagawa, our leading C racer on the road. Just looks like our C racers, our leading C racer, Kei Nakagawa, who we're watching right now, is closing the gap down to the leader of our D race. So, the 2 leaders of our D race. Nakagawa over a minute and a half ahead of N. Brentholt of the Tri-Cup team. And he will be looking to hold this lead all the way to the finish. And if he's lucky, pass out that Category D leader. Once again, if you are enjoying the video and want to see more live community division racing covered by yours truly, please hit that like button and subscribe to the video. Subscribe to the Zwift Race Place. This is Kazuya Nakagawa that we're watching, and this is also the longest, well, not officially, but I believe this is the longest switchback on our course, and in my opinion, one of the toughest from turn 7 to turn 6. It's just grueling. There's even this little U-turn in the road that Kazuya Nakagawa is coming up to, and not considered a switchback, so it just keeps dragging on. There's little numbers on the map over to the right-hand side of your screen. May not seem like much, but when you're riding Alpe Du Zwift, it really does make a big difference. It's like you just got to get to the next number, and once your legs are so fatigued by turn 7, getting from turn 7 to turn 6, one of the hardest moments on this course. Then after that, it's like, oh, so close to the finish now, I can make it. But just for a lot of people, making it to the top of the Alp comes right here, getting through turns 7 and 6. Nakagawa now, coming through the snowbanks. This is kind of a fun section on the course and would be pretty fun to ride in real life as well if the snow was actually like that. Be unable to see much, but riding with those snowbanks on either side of you, in my opinion, would be kind of cool. Still got a long way to go to the top of this mountain, but much less than when we started this race. Nakagawa has finished 8.3 miles of this approximately 10-mile course, and coming up on 40 minutes into this race. Now, taking a look back at our ETAs, our D category predicted to come in just over a minute ahead of our ETA is just updated. So our D category predicted to come in just over a minute and a half ahead of our C riders. C riders predicted to come in at exactly the same time as the B race. So that is going to be the race that we are watching in those final moments. C racers versus B racers, and it looks like it's going to be close. Both ETAs at 1 hour, 14 minutes, and 13 seconds. So, going to be watching those two categories to see if our B racers can make the catch. And then our A race predicted well over 3 minutes behind the B race. So, A racers are going to have to step it up a little if they want to catch that B race. ETAs just updated again, and it appears that our B racers are losing a little bit of time to the C race, now about 4 seconds. Predicted 4 seconds behind them at the finale, but still so close. That will be the race to watch in the end. This is, of course, Kei Nakagawa, the leader of your C race, and he will be trying to hold off those lead B racers. The gap just getting, well, it's gotten quite a bit smaller since the start, but see if Nakagawa can hold them off. Can just see our lead B racer, E. Leishman. I believe this is our first place B racer, about 30 seconds behind Nakagawa. And Leishman pushing just around 5-6 watts per kilogram, now only 18 seconds back to Nakagawa, and this looks like the catch may come very shortly. Just have to see if Nakagawa can make a push, dig in, and keep him away. A Boldarev, one of our E racers, now in sight for the leader of our B race, E. Leishman. This is Eric Leishman, just about to catch Alex Boldarev. And then it is only about 13 seconds to Nakagawa, the leader of the C race. He will be in Leishman's sights soon, and once that happens, it's all over for Nakagawa. Leishman now putting out some big watts, up to 7 watts per kilograms there. He sees that gap, and he sees that it's coming down, so this could be the end for Kayusha Nakagawa in terms of our B versus C racers. The leader of our D race, just over 3/4 of the way through the course now, and we will see if we can rejoin them just a little bit later on. Now watching as Eric Leishman making the catch on Kayusha Nakagawa, 0 seconds to him, and Nakagawa has been caught by the leader of our B race. Now Eric Leishman on the road heading towards those lead D riders, but I do not think that he will make the catch. We'll just have to see. Our leading C rider being shown, well, not too far behind the D race, but not much racing left to go either. Right now, it is predicted that Eric Leishman will be coming in. Well, predictions not quite as accurate anymore, showing over 34 minutes to the finish of this B race, but I believe that ETA no longer accurate as Leishman passed turn 4 now, and it is not too far to the finish. But this is the leader of your D race, Pascal Derniac, past turn 1, and it is on the final straight to the finish. Eric Leishman, 4 minutes behind the leader of your B race. Do not believe he will be making the catch to the D race today, but did catch that C race, so an important achievement for our B racing category. Eric Leishman, now no one left in between him and the leader of our D race here. He has passed Kay McGill, the one D racer left as a buffer. And Leishman pushing some big watts, over 6 watts per kilogram now, trying to close the gap to Pascal Derniac. But Derniac just about to crest this last push to the top of this Alpe Du Zwift KOM here. And Leishman bringing the gap down now to 3 minutes and 53 seconds. But still too much to close in too little time. You have a rider that you want to watch, so let me know over in the live chat. I'll keep an eye on that. But for now, Pascal Derniac, about to be your winner of the D race today. ETAs all over the place now. Still showing Pascal Derniac as not being predicted to finish for another 22 minutes, so ETA is no longer very reliable. And Pascal Derniac, your winner of the D race today. And going back with Eric Leishman now, as Pascal Derniac just passing through that finishing banner there. So Eric Leishman, now your leader of the B race on the road, and looks like he very well might be your winner in the B race today. Passed out Kei Nakagawa in the C race. So we will watch Eric Leishman finish, and then Kiyushi Nakagawa after him. My guess is that Nakagawa coming in around a minute after Eric Leishman. This is the Canadian rider here, though, in that gray and orange Zwift jersey. Not quite sure what bike he's using. But it has worked for him today. Your current leader on the road of both the B race and all categories overall. But Lise, the French woman, already taking home that title of winner overall on the day. She was released 10 minutes before any other categories and 40 minutes before our strongest category, though. But an amazing performance from her. Very big WKG average. That is, of course, your watts per kilogram. Eric Leishman now just pushing into the red numbers for a moment. That means he is pushing over 8 watts per kilogram, and he is approaching turn number 2. From turn number 2, it is on to turn number 1, and then the final run-in to the finish. My second least favorite part of this course, as that run into the finish just seems so long. Just want to be there already. Eric Leishman with a pretty impressive time today. Just coming up on the 40-minute mark. And Leishman already quite close to the top of this Alpe Du Zwift KOM. So I believe if he can finish here within the next 5 minutes, he might be looking at a sub 40 time. Now, looking to Eric Leishman to finish off this race. But in the future, after Eric Leishman, who will probably be finishing just about 4 minutes to go now. We will be heading back with our A racers who are just over halfway through this climb now and see what they are up to and who is leading our A race. Haven't seen much of the A race action yet today. Been focused on our E, D, and C races and now watching our B race. Kind of just the way it goes with a chase race like this, where our slowest categories going off first. Now Eric Leishman on the final push to the finish. See the two statues up at the top of this mountain here. One of my favorite sights on the Alpe Du Zwift KOM. Of course, if you're lucky, you might also get to see the Yeti that hangs out in the snowy slopes of Alpe Du Zwift. But those statues mean that you are done, and that is one of my favorite feelings on this climb. Eric Leishman now, an 8% gradient, and just pushing his way to the top, hitting some red numbers there for a moment, over 8 watts per kilograms. Excuse me, I did say we would go back with our A race before, after this B race. But first, watching Kazuya Nakagawa finish, the leader of our C race. He will be coming in just about a minute and a half after Eric Leishman. Gradient dropping down for a moment there, but now back up to 8%. And the finish line will be in sight as Leishman comes over this little ridge, and it is about, well, around 100 meters of flat to the finish from here. Now Leishman pushing some big numbers there for a moment. Negative 1% gradient, and this feels so good on the legs after all that climbing. Eric Leishman, your winner on the day of our B race. And we are back with Kazuya Nakagora on the final stretch here. Now leading out not only the C race, but the entire race, as the rest of the riders in front of him have finished. Just getting a view of the top of the mountain here. Lots of equipment, some satellite dishes up here. And then, of course, the statues I was talking about earlier. See if we can... a bit of an overhead view here. See a fallen piece of a statue there. Just that little pillar sticking up. That's what I've always assumed it was anyway. Could just be a rock. See some snow up here at the top of the mountain, although there is more snow farther down in the snowbanks. Lots of bare rock you can still see here. Kazuya Nakagawa has had a long run today. Watts per kilograms dropping down closer to 3.5. Saw him pushing well over 5 watts per kilograms earlier, and closer to 5.5 when he made his initial attack on the early slopes of this climb, getting away from the other riders in this C race. I believe Noah Brendholt is currently our second place C rider on the road, about 41 seconds back to Noah Brendholt. So Kazuya Nakagawa held him off this entire climb and now gets to enjoy winning the C race. As his name says, only a 50-kilogram rider. So definitely those later riders with a big advantage on these climbs. For those of you wondering, 50 kilograms translates to 110 pounds. So, yep. Kazuya Nakagawa, a very light rider here. age 39, and height 5 feet 5 inches. The Japanese rider just cresting the top of this little push here, and now gradient drops down to -1% for a moment here, but mostly sits at 0. And this is the finish of our C race. Kayusa Nakagawa bringing it home. K to win now passed out Noah Brendholt for our second place C rider on the road. Watch him finish it here. K to win, just about to take second place overall in your C race. K McGill, a D racer, chasing him down but not going to catch him. And we go back with the leader of your A race now. This is Carl Eric Rosendahl, and he is leading the A race currently. Not well with the bikes and beer jersey on. Here, that is that red and blue jersey. And Carl Eric Rosendahl pushing over 5 watts per kilograms here of the Forza team. This is the Danish rider. Not incredibly new to Zwift. He is a level 17, so been riding for a little while. We didn't quite call him a Zwift veteran yet, but Carl Eric Rosendahl knows his way around Zwift and most likely Zwift racing as well. See if we can find his Zwift Power account here. I think it is about a minute back to our second place A rider on the road. That is Hugo Bjort. Not much data for Carl Eric Rosendahl in his Zwift Power account here. 1,781st place overall in terms of Z points. So out of all A racers, that's where he sits in the standings. As I said, he is a Danish rider. Only done 21 races, or I shouldn't say only, 21 is a good number. And his last race before this was the Fusion ECT Unstoppable Racing. So see some of the Team Italy Frenchy Fusion League on here, and the BRT Iron Goat Racing League. Overall, mid-pack A racer. Only around 64 kilograms, so clearly a climber, and probably why he is excelling on this largely climbing course, as Carl Eric Rosendahl of the Forza team passes through turn number 4, still pushing over 4.5, 5 watts per kilograms. Looks like did a 3R Watopia Hilly race. 3 laps of that just a little while ago, or not just a little while ago. Just over a week ago, took third in that race. Won the Tour for All Stage 3 race. So pretty impressive there. Another third place on a 3R Watopia Hilly. At that time, it was a hilly reverse race. So, as I said, clearly a climber, good on those hilly races. But back in with the action. Rosendahl just coming under these rocks here. You can see the blue lights on the side. That is a good indicator that you are not too far from the finish now. see if we can find our next A racer on the road. Believe that is Hugo Viort of the Punchers Club. Having a hard time going back with that racer. Oh, now finding our second place A rider on the road. This is RM Dieta. See if I can find him on Zwift Power. Sitting second place overall and just approaching turn number 3 now. An interesting little tidbit here. Carl Eric Rosendahl predicted just inside the top 10 in 8th place overall before the beginning of this race. So definitely not predicted in the lead. Wasn't even really on my radar as a favorite in this race. But proving the Zwift Power predictions wrong, as can sometimes happen with some of these climbing races. And right now, leading this race, predicted in first was Hugo Viort. I believe he is sitting around 3rd place overall right now. Is RM Dieta of the ARG team, just making the catch on some of these dropped B, C, D, and possibly E riders here. Mendieta also believe he is also riding an S-Works Venge. Saw that as a popular bike choice earlier. Approaching turn 2 now. Well, just past turn 3. But our leader, just approaching turn 2 now. That is Carl Rosendahl. And we go back up with him, about to pass under this rock arch. Chasing down S. Albano. Believe he is a B racer. Italian rider there. Getting a view of this turn. That was, of course, turn number 2. So only 2 switchbacks left to go until Carl Rosendahl hits the top of this climb. Do not have any. The official results are showing Kevin McGill as the winner of our D race. Believe the other D racers who finished ahead of him not registered on Zwift Power, but you can check out Zwift Companion for the final results if you are interested according to Zwift. But according to Zwift Power, Kevin McGill, the leader of our D race. Daniel Moore is shown as the leader of the C race. And Matteo Piazza of Team Milano Cycling winning the B race. Of course, none of those are actual winners on the day, just what Zwift Power is showing. Zwift Power, of course, recently brought under the official Zwift app, but still updates that need to be made. And both of our leading D riders shown on Zwift Power, outside of category limits, technically supposed to be minimum category B. So just lots of ways that this has gone wrong on Zwift Power here. ETA is not showing correctly either right now. Still showing. Yeah. But anyway, Carl Eric Rosendahl of the Forza team, our current leader of the A race on the road, and just about to pass through turn number 1. He, of course, did not make the catch to the leader of our B race. B race leader has already finished. But Carl Rosendahl going to be our winner in the A race, I believe. Don't think that our other A racers behind are going to be able to close the gap. I believe Rodrigo Mendieta was our second placed A racer on the road, currently 30 seconds back, pushing just over 4 watts per kilograms, while up in the front, Carl Eric Rosendahl pushing over 5, and on the final stretch to the finish. So it looks like Carl Eric Rosendahl is going to be taking first in our A race, bringing it home for the Forza team, and Mendieta taking home second in our A race. Just after the finish, we will conclude our coverage of this Herd Racing League Alpe Dash. But as Carl Eric Rosendahl coming up to the top of this mountain, you can see just the green tint of the northern lights above the finish line in that dark sky. It is now nighttime on Zwift. Eric Leishman was our winner of the B race, or our unofficial winner of the B race, not being shown as the winner on Zwift Power, but see if that is sorted out. Also, with the fastest time of the Alpe Du Zwift KOM currently, sitting at 35 minutes and 19 seconds. Do not believe that Carl Rosendahl will be beating that time. He is already over 47 minutes total, and do not believe that that will translate to under a 35-minute, 19-second time for Carl Rosendahl. So Eric Leishman, your B racer, fastest time on the Alpe Du Zwift KOM today. And Carl Rosendahl not making the catch as F. Vinco just coming up towards this finish here, a leading C racer. And that will conclude our coverage of this Alpe Dash presented by the Herd Racing League. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like button and subscribe down below for more live coverage of community division racing on the Zwift Race Place. As I have said earlier, coming out with a new segment on the Zwift Race Place where community division racers share their tips live on the show. So if you want to be on the show, there is a form to fill out down in the description below, and we will consider your tip in the final pick. So if you have a great tip to share with the Zwift racing community, just fill out that form down below, and you might get a chance to come on the show and share your Zwift racing tip with the Zwift racing world. That concludes our coverage of the Alpe Dash by the Herd Racing League, and hope to see you next time.